kind of teach yourself, where did I go wrong? That I understand where I went wrong sometimes. Sometimes we kind of forget some of the common basic principles. What we're trying to do is look at ultimately what God will teach us, and maybe also some common sense things that sometimes we know better, and sometimes we just can't help it in what we say. So we've been looking at that. I think we also should know that there's a terrible trend when it comes to marriage in the United States. We've already been through this slide. I altered it a little bit. But the damage done by laws and ideas that perverts God's law and teaching of holy matrimony in the family. And sometimes also the lack of godly response that we have towards the indignity that we should have sometimes when there's something that's obviously opposite of what God teaches. Same-sex marriage, unclear laws pertaining to legal definitions of marriage has become more and more prevalent. No-fault divorce started in 1969 with Ronald Reagan. Gender roles, feminism, sexual abuse, marriage to, if I remember back from when I brought there was people that have married their computers, a guy from Huntsville married his computer. But what he was trying to do is talk about these unclear laws pertaining to legal definitions of marriage. He was showing that by what they were allowing to go on as far as what they considered marriage, he could marry his computer or his laptop because he spent so much time with, and he went through this legal basis. He was trying to show the absurdity of the law. So I cut him some slack there. I know that there are in some countries laws that allow you to marry, and that's really not a true definition. There's a difference between marriage and holy matrimony. Just last night when Andrew was doing services for the ceremony last night, he used that term, holy matrimony. There's a difference between getting married in the United States and what is truly holy matrimony, and that goes with what we studied with Donnie Reagan, is that a marriage is still considered a marriage, from responsibilities when it comes to people that are unscripturally married. And what doesn't mean it make it a holy, just like the one who had his brother's wife. That's not what God wants. It meets the standards that God gives us in the Scriptures. And of course, divorce. So marriage is under attack. The lack of scriptural teaching in churches, it's easier than making people uncomfortable sitting in the pews and tell the truth. It's easier to avoid preaching those scriptures. They just look over it and just, they don't want to confront people with that. But what it means is people are going to be in sin, and they're going to die in their sins. And that's what's ultimately we have to consider. Marriage is a very serious thing. It's not something that's frivolous. Any questions or comments about that? All right, we went over the scriptures that dictate and guide the kind of marriage that Christians should seek when it comes to men. We're not left, men, when it comes right down to it, we're not left wondering what we're supposed to be. In Ephesians 5, beginning with verse 22, there are specific directions as to men and women as to what this relationship, and he uses the analogy of the church, but it says, wives, verse 22, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. People have a lot of trouble with that word submit. I've seen, I don't know if it was Life Bunny's videos or something, but a woman was getting married, and apparently she hadn't pre-read the vows, and she got up, and the preacher says, and submit, and she was going, I'm going to love him, I'm going to cherish him. He said, you're going to submit? And she said, what? I'm going to submit? No, I don't think so. Obviously, she hadn't really looked at it from God's perspective. She was willing to be married to a person as long as it was on her terms and not on God's terms. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he's the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be unto their husbands in everything. That is the wife's responsibility, the attitude that they ought to have when they decide to get married. These things should be decided ahead of time. And husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. What would you be willing to do for your wife? If you look at it that way, if it's the same thing as Christ did for us, what would you be willing to do how far would you go to make that work? How would you consider her? When you think that you're willing to die for somebody, it gives the highest regard of love that it's known that we can even fathom as humans. It's the highest regard we can do. And that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that he would be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. And so I don't think any of us go out or get up in the morning and start immediately taking our fist and hit ourselves in the head and beat ourselves and hurt ourselves physically. We get up and start saying bad things. We don't, we don't want to hurt ourselves, yet we're willing to hurt our wife, or willing to hurt our husband with words or with actions. So this is a high regard of what kind of attitude and what kind of actions and what kind of life we ought to live together. For no man ever hateth his own flesh, but nourisheth it and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. Jesus takes care of his own. He takes care of those who are his children. And do we really spend as much time taking care of our marriage as we do being critical of it? If we're critical, maybe we need to find solutions instead of just being critical. For we're members of his body and his flesh and of his bones. For this cause shall man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself. The wife see that she reverence her husband. So the relationship we ought to have with husband and wife, to me, is very clear. Any questions or comments concerning that? All right, lead and cleave. One problem sometimes in marriages is that people get married, but they still keep their relationship with their parents. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have a relationship with their parents, but they're supposed to leave their parents. They're not just, some parents have trouble with that. They want to be involved in their child's life, just like when they are in, what they call now helicopter parents, where they're always hovering around their child and stuff, and they want to be involved and things like that. I heard a term the other day. Any of y'all heard the expression lawnmower parents? Does anybody know what a lawnmower parent is? Okay, I see some head shaking. What is it? Terry, what is it?
It's basically you're knocking down any kind of issues or problems that are going to confront your child before they get to it. And you kind of, I would think later on when they get a little bit older, it's going to affect them because they're not going to know how to act in situations that they come up upon that they have a serious issue with.
Karen, you're an elementary school teacher. You see this probably a lot more. There's something about adults and parents that when their children get into high school, sometimes they'll it's like, I'm done with you. You're 15 years old, or you're 16 years old, and therefore I'm through raising you. But this is really getting bad. At that. Some of these parents will be at your school every day. Is that right?
Yeah, they want to, it's never their child's fault. They want to step in and solve the problem for them. They're taking away all the responsibility off the child. They're taking the responsibility. If they take it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When I know this is, even though we're talking about marriage, children are part of marriage, and understanding those relationships, you cripple people when you don't, when you keep them from having to learn on their own curve to some degree, and you take over those situations. Well, when you get married and you go on your own, it's kind of like the children. The day your children are born, in essence, really, you should be developing them to do what? Become independent. Okay. There are situations where people stay with their parents that maybe because their parents need help and that sort of thing. I realize that there are exceptions to that, but generally speaking, you should want your children to grow up to think that, well, if I get married, I'll rely on mom and dad. You're there to rely on your spouse. That's where your emphasis should go. That's the healthy thing that God wants you to do. Any comments there? Blessed is man, I mean, as men, and I would say as women too, but happy is the man that finds a wife. Rejoice with the wife of thy youth. I hadn't really thought much about that term, but we were talking about physical appearances and how that impacts marriage sometimes later on. You know, to me that says a lot. She was satisfied. You were satisfied when she was young. But now that she's gotten older and suddenly, you know, her looks or his looks change, then what are you going to do? Are you going to be satisfied with that, or are you going to want something different? You want something more? That's something we've got to consider. Faithful to his wife, not abusive. Don't be treacherous, is what Malachi says. Rule over, and the key word that I look there is lead, and we've talked a little bit about this. As men, our responsibility in ruling is not necessarily the idea of a dictator. Matter of fact, dictatorship should never be a word that is associated with that. I think all of us want to be a part of a country that has a ruler who lets you be you and doesn't interfere with certain things. But basically, it rules over you very kindly and wisely, and not somebody who sticks their thumb on you and oppresses you. Dwell with knowledge and understanding. Protect as the weaker vessel. Nourish and cherish. We just read that. Provide for. And you're this one flesh. Render due benevolence. Defraud not one another. That is a responsibility in the marriage. As far as the woman, a lot of these the same things, but she's to love. She's to live for her parents. Cleave to her husband. She'll be blessed through this. Submit, be ruled over, but be not bitter because of those situations. Reverence and honor, because the way she treats her husband, he'll be known for that. She'll be known for that. People know. I'm going to tell you, ladies, it's not hard to find God. It's not hard to recognize godly women. It doesn't take much to be around people to know the folks that are committed and have submitted to God, and also when it comes to their husband. Be virtuous. Proverbs 31 does not give a portray or give the idea of a picture of a woman who sits home in her house and, you know, does nothing. She works harder than most all of us. If you look at the picture, you know, it's a woman that is fulfilling her duties and is very active. She's out considering fields. You know, I use that term a lot with Donna. We went to a homestead, hollow thing where they've got different arts and crafts. And I said, I'm going over here because whatever she's shopping for, I'm not. I said, I'm going over here and I'll let you go consider the field over there, because she's going to go over and she's going to look at jewelry, she's going to look at that kind of stuff. So she's trusted, she's strong, she's kind, she's honorable. She's to be the glory of the man, obedient, keepers at home, discreet, chaste. And we've been looking at the pitfalls. All right, we've looked at one thing is we probably hadn't emphasized enough is the lack of spiritual faith. If we put our faith in God and His Word, we can't go wrong. Sometimes our problem is that we want to do what we want to do, not what God's Word tells us to do. When we become in conflict, it becomes a war of the flesh there. But our lack of spiritual faith, if we get married with God being the center of our lives and the person or the being that we look to for our information, for the examples, you know, we can't really go wrong with that. Infidelity is a pitfall, and it's becoming more and more rampant. The abilities we talked about in some degree about this, but because of social media, because of interactions at work, because of just situations that are made available to different people, their infidelity becomes an opportunity for some folks. There are people who take up some certain things in order to provide themselves with an opportunity to be unfaithful. And we need to make sure that we don't put ourselves in those situations. We have to be careful about who we associate with and also how we present ourselves. You know, you got a coworker that you see on a daily basis and you share time with, and there needs to be certain lines that you need to make sure. One thing, if nothing else, especially for guys, is sexual harassment is a prominent problem in the United States and getting more and more. I mean, if you pay any attention to politics this week, you see that becomes can become a problem, and that we have to be careful and put ourselves above reproach when it comes to that. And if we feel that something's going in the wrong direction, we need to do like Joseph. We need to flee from it. We don't need to get, if she's married and she's having problems at home, and she can talk to you, and you get involved in that. It's not something. That's not saying that you can't try to help, but you got to be really careful about those situations, because she can attach herself, or he can attach himself to a woman who's doing this and trying to, sometimes it's not something they start out with a plan. That's what's going to happen, but it does. So you have to be careful. And your reputation as we all, if you've been paying attention to politics all the way back down to your high school and what you put in your yearbook can affect your life. That's really sounds sad, strange, but I would hate to be held responsible for something I did when I was in high school, put in a yearbook. But we're kind of seeing the guy's life on display. So finances, very important. A lot of people's marriage dissolves because they are bad at handling finances, or somebody will work, or somebody is careless, or they buy what they want and they don't really involve. I don't know, one hand, they know what the other hand's doing, next thing you know, there's no money for the important things, and you get in arguments over finances and stuff. These things should be worked out ahead of time. I hate to think that I started the marriage with a prenup to protect my, I would hate to think, when it comes to, I hate to think that's what I'd ever have to even think about, that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of people that do that sort of thing. And a lot of this is fueled by materialism. What we want, we're not going to deny ourselves, we're going to spend it. I know we don't have it, but you know what, there's always a charge for it. Some of you that's have older kids know that when they're about 14, 15 years old, little forms come in for them to get charge cards, credit cards. And, it just blew me away when I went to some schools that the kids would go through the line and use their charge cards when they're 13 years old. It's almost like when they first started getting cell phones. It's like, really? You're 13 years old and you need a cell phone? That seems strange to me. And I realize we're in a different world, and I can understand that there can be benefits to having a cell phone to some degree, but it just seems really strange to me sometimes how we've evolved or devolved, depending on how you're going to look at it. So, materialism, wanting to be like everybody else, wanting to have something that maybe you can't afford, not denying yourself, not looking after that sort of thing can obviously create problems. We talked about a lack of communication, and what we're going to talk about, Lord willing, today for a few minutes is a lot of that is the communication that we have with each other. Addictions, lack of intimacy. We really get a chance to talk about unrealistic expectations. In case you hadn't figured out, the person that you married is not a perfect person. And there are some things about them that probably are always going to be true. No matter how hard you try, you probably won't be able to check into them in some situations. As long as it's not detrimental, I guess, or there can be some things that they need to change, but sometimes little habits or, the old ratty shirt that you keep washing, wondering why you keep wearing it late, and why it's still even in, those types of things. Some people nuts. But unrealistic, lack of quality time together, I think that's becoming more and more. I see more and more families sitting around the dinner table when I go to eat out, and everyone's sitting there with their cell phone, the kids and everybody sitting around. Is that quality time? Controlling. Who should be in control? In your marriage, who should be in control? Have you ever thought about that? Who's in control? Jason, who should be in control in marriage?
Both husband and wife.
Both husband and wife. But ultimately, who should be in control?
Husband should be the head.
He's got to make. At some point, he's got to make the final decision, and she can help him come up with the best decision. It's not like she doesn't have a voice but at some points, that sort of thing. And hopefully God is in control when it gets right down to it. Does having rule over mean that you have to be controlling? If I'm the one that's supposed to be the head of it, does that mean I have to control my wife? Guys? Any of y'all ever known people who the husband, maybe especially the husband, it's almost like a lack of trust. He just always had to know where his wife was, what she was doing, and this, and any type of time between them when they came together, in an interrogation. Does that build trust? This leads to verbal and physical abuse. The lack of commitment is going to cause problems. Lack of respect for each other. Problem that gets with the division of labor at home. Selfishness, pride, uncontrolled lust, jealousy. These are not new types of things that destroys when it comes to. All right, conflict resolutions, and I put the term fighting fair. What are some strategies for resolving conflict in a marriage? This is your part. I've done a review. You got a problem with somebody. How do you handle it? Talk about it. Okay? What else?
Breathe.
Say it again.
Just breathe.
Just breathe. So you're saying that this, because it's a conflict, it means you are angry?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But if you just take your time and breathe, you can stop it before you get to that.
Well, it's kind of like counting 10 before you say something. If the idea is to give you a sense to, don't say what immediately comes, to your mind to say, but to give yourself some time to at least control what's going to come out of your mouth and the thoughts.
This is something we don't do because we want to think that we're in control, but we need to be praying about it.
We sometimes, years ago, I was at a congregation that didn't have elders, and we had business meetings. And sometimes those business meetings it wasn't real fun in there. And there were some people that were very opinionated, and sometimes those opinions didn't line up with each other, and folks would get to talking really loud. And Karen Copeland's dad was our preacher, Richard Copeland, and when things started getting loud, he would say, "Let's pray." And it's amazing how fast everything dissolved. And then when people got through praying, where they had been shouting maybe or talking very loudly and finger pointing, the demeanor completely changed like that. Because it's kind of like when you pray to God, it's almost like God just entered the room, even though God was there already. It's like, God, does that make sense? It's like, we're in the presence of God here, guys. What do we do? So that's exactly right. What does it mean by fighting fair? What are some things that are not fair?
Bringing up stuff from the past has absolutely nothing to do with what
Dragging them at that time. I have personally never won an argument with my wife. I have never won. One is she's a lot smarter than I am. Number two is if she's losing, she ends up changing the subject, and if she finds a subject that I can't win, and it's almost comical. But the truth of the matter is, most times when we get in, I know she's right. We'll discuss it. The truth of the matter is some people bring up things not really to find a constructive solution. They're doing it to hurt somebody or to win. And I think we have to be careful about that. That's a good one. What else is fighting unfair? Besides bringing up things from the past. Aren't there methods that people use all the time? Ladies, what's a good way to win? What's a good way to win an argument?
Start crying.
I love that.
I didn't have to say it. As a teacher, and having nothing but females in my life, with all my grandkids and my daughters and my wife. I mean, we've never even had a male pet. I'm the only masculine thing in my house.
Bless your heart.
Bless my heart. I couldn't even get a boy dog. But the thing is that I forgot where I was going with it.
Right.
Crying. Yeah.
Crying. I'm a school teacher. I'm a school teacher teaching seniors in government class, and I had like 3 or 4 girls through the years. Senior year, they allows a student, they got enough. And so it's, you know, it's fixed, grades fixed to go out, and they come up and tearfully, you know, Coach, I've been having a bad 6 weeks, and, you know, they just don't, they're crying and sobbing, and I said, I got $2 at home. And they went, okay. I understand. So there's some guys that if you start crying, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not, you know, if I feel like I drove you to tears, most guys are going to do chivalrous thing, right? And they're saying, honey, whatever you want. So, yes.
Here's another one, if we're done with that one. The conflicts need to stay at home.
They stay
We
home.
don't need to be sharing it with others.
That goes back to that instance we're talking about. There are some things that you and your husband or you and your wife are talking about, and that's not something you should go off and share with your buddies, that with your cohorts. That's a good one. What else? You know, so sometimes we feel like if we just get some people on our side, get public opinion. All right, this is kind of what the usual tactics. First thing I wrote down was tears. I'll give in. I'd rather give up than fight. Anybody like that? I'm like that on about 99% of the things that comes up in my house, because 99% of things that she wants to talk about, I really don't care. You know, and I'm not trying to be ugly, but you know, it's kind of like the biggest argument in our house is where we're going to eat on Sunday afternoon, right? Any of them. And so when I go, I don't care. Well, you got to have a place. I don't care. I'm not going to discuss. Just you pick a place. I had found that we ever found a place and we couldn't find something we could eat. Okay, we could never have any problem. That's just the truth. And so we have that, and that's a lot of things. She wants to make this an issue, and I'm like, I don't see it as an issue. So I'm kind of like, rather than fight over something I think is trivial, I don't want to fight over that. So that's just me. Flee the scene. Is that a bad thing to flee the scene? What does that tell your significant other when she wants to have or he wants to have a talk with you about something serious, and you show him the hand and you walk out? Probably not a good thing, is it? So assert my authority to gain control of the situation and get my way. Now that could be really for men. That could be I'll show you who's boss. You know, I'll get louder. I'll bow up. When Donna first got married, we got some argument or something, and she got upset. I think we were folding clothes, and I got a coat hanger, and I said, "I'm just going to tell you one thing. You shook a coat hanger at me." I didn't think that was threatening, but she did. Any of y'all, do we ever manipulate the facts? Change the subject, so to speak? Yeah, we do that. Challenge my husband or wife, especially when I think I know better. Put it into that kind of thing. I pretty much do as he or she says. Things seem to go more smoothly that way. Okay? Yes.
I believe the biggest thing is just be prepared to say that you're wrong. And
that's exactly right. Most of y'all don't remember Happy Days over on this side, but y'all remember the Fonz? Fonz, there's one thing where he couldn't say, he would say, well, I'm wrong. He couldn't say the word wrong because in his mind, he had never made a mistake. Some of us are like, it's our pride gets in our way, and we have to be careful about that. I'm just not going to let them win.
Along that line, I think you have to understand that you can be wrong and that what you say can come out wrong.
Exactly.
And at the same time, it could be the other way around. And, men and women are different. We don't understand. Brandy does not understand what I'm trying to say. And I have to be like, wait a minute, let me grab that back and say it in a different way that it doesn't sound like I'm being harsh. Because, I'm talking with Pat or Jared, if they understand what I'm saying, I'm not being a jerk. But if you say it the same way to your spouse, whoa, wait a minute. let me take that back. And if you come to the understanding that, you know, she could say something wrong, it's not what she meant, or I could say something wrong, it's not what I meant, that's a good place to be.
I think in discussions, we also maybe spend a lot of time clarifying what comes out of our mouth, because it maybe doesn't come exactly the way, you know, we talk about emails and text and stuff, that you can send those out, and people will, they don't have a chance to ask you questions about what was said or that sort of thing. And so you really, you know, then you find, well, this is what was on my mind when I said that. And so this give you a chance. Jason?
Along with I'm sorry, we have to learn how to forgive. It's one thing to say I'm sorry, it's another thing to forgive. There's no forgiveness, you can't resolve anything. Because like you said earlier, it's always going to come back up sometime if you don't truly forgive.
Yeah, and truly forgive. Sometimes we hold those things over for another time, and they just keep rearing their heads every time. You know, it's kind of like a tennis player who's got a great shot that he just salts away. I'm gonna play tennis with you. At some point, I got something I know I can win. If I tell you this, I'll end this discussion. Work towards a mutual agreement, avoid character assassination. Sometimes people can get ugly, and this should never take place between two Christians. Actively listen, you know. That means you got to look at them. It means that you got to nod your head. You got to actually participate. Sometimes it's just easy just to turn your head. You know, she's talking to me, but I'm not listening. Review the options. You know, realize that this is, you know, you're working together on this. It's not necessarily my way. It's not your way. It's our way. What's the best thing that works for us? And of course, sometimes we're not talking about things that might be sinful. End with a win-win solution. You know, the idea is really your marriage is winning. You are winning as one flesh, not two people. Well, I got this round. You know, or it's not. You're not keeping score. It's not that sort of thing. If you do that, you will be miserable. Confront your spouse with grace and tactfulness requires wisdom, patience, and humility. What does this require? One is resolving conflict requires knowing, accepting, and adjusting to your differences. Realize that you're not the same, and don't feel like in order for you to win this, my person has to think exactly like I do. You know, again, we're not talking about sometimes these are matters of preference, not right or wrong. Resolving conflicts requires defeating selfishness. I'm going to get my way. Resolving conflicts requires pursuing the other person. You know, I'll resolve this, but you got to come to me. Do y'all understand that sometimes that what we do is we ignore it and we just, I'm not going to talk about this until that person comes to me. And I'll be hard-headed in that way. Resolving conflicts requires loving confrontation. There's a difference. When we say conflict, that word tends to show kind of detail the idea of you know, anger and frustration and all that. You know, sometimes it doesn't. Every conflict does not have to be in that particular vein. We need to avoid that if at all possible. It requires forgiveness, which has both been mentioned in here. Sometimes you ask for forgiveness, or sometimes you got to give people forgiveness. I'm the type of person you can do something to hurt me and hurt my feelings, and it won't take too much longer. That's by the wayside. To me, intent goes. You know, there's a difference between somebody that says something that hurts your feelings and people that intentionally continue to try to hurt you with that. I'm a move on guy. Resolving conflict requires returning a blessing for an insult. That's where we're supposed to answer with a soft answer, not a harsh answer. It doesn't have to be the other way. We're supposed to dwell with understanding and knowledge. Bear with each other, forgive each other. If any of you have a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Foolish pride. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not the Father, but is of the world. If we are letting this pride get in our way, we're handling things the way the world will. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. there's not a greater passage about the way we're supposed to love each other in a husband and wife situation in 1 Corinthians 13. Esteem each other as better than yourselves. Sometimes this gets into your ego. And guys, this is really tougher on us, I think, than women in most cases, or even wives in many cases, is that we have to feel like we're the man of the family, and that, well, we're supposed to be, a Christian, and be a Christian man. And if we esteem our wife better than ourselves, and we don't think of them in some lonely station in life, I think that's important. Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only on his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Sometimes you need to make decisions based on what's good for everybody else, not what's good for you. Get rid of all bitterness, and rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. And not rendering evil for evil. If your spouse is angry at you and if they're attacking you, does not give you the right to attack them. It's not fire versus fire. You're supposed to, and I'm think probably in marriages this happens. There's frustration that happens when you live with someone else. Everybody's not always on the same page. Not everybody feels the same way. But we don't need to return fire with fire. Avoid hurting one another with words. Establish an environment. Any of y'all ever need to have a serious conversation? This doesn't go to the younger people here, but kids can really get in the way when you're trying to have a conversation. And so sometimes finding a place to sit down and talk. Take them up, go out to eat, go someplace where you actually sit and talk, or get away so that you can actually, if you're having a serious conversation, there's nothing worse than trying to have this interaction with each other and having to answer questions. This happens to us every time we talk with Haley and she FaceTimes with us, is we want to see the grandkids, but we want to talk to Haley. And the grandkids will not let us talk with Haley, so it's very frustrating to have a conversation, because somewhere some kid's going to cry, some kid's going to scream, someone's going to do a flip off the back couch over there and do something that scares everybody. That's going to happen. So it's really hard to have concentration there. Agree on the problem. Sometimes with the problem, we may be different. We may have a problem, and the problem may not with each other, and it may be that it's different for each of us. Sometimes agree on what we're talking about. Any of y'all ever had a discussion with somebody and thought and then realized y'all weren't even talking about the same thing? That's happened to me. If you get married long, that'll happen. Pick one battle at a time. Have you ever tried to fight people behind you on each side and in front? It doesn't go very well. So sometimes overkill can happen. So this suggestion is that if you got to talk about this and discuss this conflict, maybe do it one thing at a time. Let's don't pour on. Let's don't pile on, so to speak. Gather information with the idea of success, not of winning and of destroying the other person. Brainstorm. Look on being positive and creative and stay in the present. Stay away from the things in the past. Be careful to withhold criticism and focus on turning problems into possibilities, improving on ideas, and combining concepts. That's where you got to, compromise and give and take. Negotiate. And sometimes people don't negotiate very well. We got a president, sometimes I don't think he negotiates very well. He's very straightforward with what he says. He means what he says, I guess most of the time. But his mannerisms towards people goes off kind of gruff. So negotiate, work towards a collaborative. We're working together. That puts you in a better situation. Emphasize common ground. Listen to each other. Be willing to forgive or ask for forgiveness. This is the time to let go of inconsequential things. Evaluate the progress. Don't assume that once a solution is reached, that it is a completed process. Have you ever sat around and made a decision about what you're going to do, and then it's like both people got it? It's kind of like looking in the mirror and saying, I got these problems, and then going your own way. And sometimes we'll come up and work on something, and then nobody goes and works on it. So maybe I need to follow up. Anyway, I appreciate the class, and y'all have a good one. Thank you.
With
Good